A passenger plane has crashed in southeastern Russia.
There were about 50 people on board. That included 5 children as well.
The An-24 aircraft, which is almost 50 years old, disappeared without a trace as it battled low clouds and driving rain. The plane was on its second approach to land at Tynda Airport in Russia's Far East Amur region.
Early reports are emerging from the Siberian region of Russia, and I stress early reports. There's a Reuters article out about an airplane crash yesterday of an Antonov An-24 aircraft. That's an aircraft that carries up to 48 passengers. The reports are that there were 40 passengers plus a crew on this flight, and that the airplane crashed into a heavily wooded area. And as you just saw in the video, it's a devastating sight. Right now, as I'm looking at it, it doesn't appear, it would be a miracle, I would think, if there was any survivors from this. There may be. As you can see, it's a very, very remote area. And in fact, according to the Reuters article, they had to cut roads in to get there. Apparently, the aircraft was on final approach about 10 miles away from the airport. The details that we do know at this point, we don't know anything about what caused this crash. What we do know is that an Antonov An-24 is a real workhorse of an airplane. It's been around for about 50 years. In fact, this particular aircraft was kind of an older airplane put into service in the mid-70s. But it was en route from a place called Blagojevsk. All right, I'm sorry if I mangled that. To Tynda, and that's on the border with China. It's a very remote region. It's operated by an airline called Angara. Angara is a private concern. And this airplane originally, way back in the day before the fall of the Soviet Union, was part of the Aeroflot fleet, but it's no longer. It's owned by this private company, Angara, en route from Blagojevsk to Tynda. Now, as we look at this video, and let's take a look at the airplane itself. This airplane has a nickname. It's called the Flying Tractor, and I'm going to explain that to you in just a minute. But right now, this airplane, when you look at it, for my pilots and my aviation enthusiasts, as you look at this, you're going to think, oh, it's a Dash 8. It's virtually identical to a Dash 8. And as you look at that side-by-side comparison photo, you can see here that it honestly, it has very few differences from the Dash 8, except for the fact that if you notice closely, the wheels are huge on this Antonov. It's got beefed up wheels. And that's because this airplane many times would be landing at fields that were not paved. It would be landing on grass strips and so forth. And so the nickname, the Flying Tractor, for this airplane really fits. The expression we use in the U.S. would be, it's a real workhorse. And those of you who remember the Dash 8 from back in the day, back in the 90s and early 2000s, man, that was a real workhorse of an airplane. You probably flew a Dash 8 sometime from some place like LaGuardia or Boston to some small remote airport someplace. And it's that 2-engine turboprop and very reliable, short field operations. It works in all weather conditions. And this Antonov An-24 was particularly good at cold weather operations. So that's why it was pressed into service up there in Siberia. It could handle the snow, the ice, and the extreme low temperatures. So, going someplace for saying, hey, there's something wrong with the airplane. We don't know that at this point. All we know is that this has been a very reliable airplane and been a real workhorse in cold conditions. Now, clearly you can see it's summer over there in Siberia, and all the trees are lush right now. You can see from the photo, the one photo here of the video, that the approach, it was kind of a gradual approach into the trees, because there's kind of some of the trees are cut off from right to left as this airplane, eventually strikes the ground. We don't know why it lost lift. I do know that the Dash 8, at least, can fly on one engine just fine. We don't know if both engines were operating or none of the engines were operating on this aircraft. As details emerge, we will share those with you here on this channel. The flight was in radar contact, and we do know, according to the Reuters article, that it dropped off the radar screens about 10 miles from the runway in Tynda. And at that point, shortly after that, it crashed. Debris was found from the aircraft, and there are some photos here of the first responders that got on the scene first, and it doesn't look very good for this aircraft. Now, let's talk about the flying tractor part of this. I'm going to read directly from the Reuters article. It says, it talks about Angara Airlines. It says, Angara Airlines is based in the Siberian city of Irkutsk. All right. And serves airports in Siberia and Russia's Far East. It operates 10 of these An-24s built between 1972 and 1976. So they're right at the 50-year mark with these airplanes, according to the Russian planes website. So all that information I just gave you came through Reuters, according to that Angara's website. All right. It was one of two Siberian airlines that last year asked the Russian government to extend the surface life of the Antonov aircraft as Russian plane makers scrambled to plug the gap left by an exodus of foreign manufacturers. So whatever's going on internally in Russia, they're trying to stretch out the life of some airplanes. That's not unusual. We will sometimes do that in the U.S., in the West. Many times, if an airplane's still in good shape, they will petition the government to extend the service life of it, the expiration date, if you will. Virtually everything that is a commodity or a manufacturer has some sort of expiration date. Airplanes are no exception to that. But they can be extended beyond their original service life. Look at the B-52, for instance, right? They go and inspect those airplanes very carefully, and then they extend them for another 3, 4, 5 years at a time. So apparently they had petitioned the Russian government to do that. It's nicknamed the flying tractor, it says here, by some. The propeller-driven An-24 was regarded as reliable workhorses. That's my expression, but it's right here in the article. By the Russian aviation industry, and are well suited to the harsh conditions in Siberia, as they are just very strong and very capable of operating in sub-zero conditions, and they don't have to land on a runway. So I would think up in that part of the world, you're going to go into a lot of places where there isn't a runway, or there certainly isn't a paved runway. Maybe there's a gravel runway, maybe there's a grass strip, or just a short field that you can get into. And this aircraft was good at getting in and out of those situations. It goes on to say this, but airline executives, pilots, and industry experts say the cost of maintaining the Antonovs, which make up a fraction, just a small fraction of Russia's fleet of over 1,000 passenger planes, has increased after Russian sanctions against Russia over its war in Ukraine hit investment and access to parts. So, the crunch is hitting them over there. They're trying to extend the life of these airplanes, but they're becoming increasingly more expensive to operate. Many of the planes were due to be retired from service in the coming years, but mass production of the new Lagoda aircraft, the same class as the An-24, is not due to begin until 2027 at its earliest. So the replacement that they've got for this airplane isn't quite online yet. So that's very typical. Maybe there's some manufacturing backlogs and so forth. Boeing, McDonnell Douglas in the day, Lockheed, Airbus, they'll get backed up. They'll get behind on their production and their research and development part of their deal. And so many times they'll ask to extend some of the airplanes that are already in service. So none of that is unusual here. There's more that we don't know about this crash than we do know. What we do know at this point was that it looks pretty devastating for these folks. The other part of it is it took a long time for the rescue crews to get there. I'm looking forward anxiously to see if there's any reports about survivors from this crash. You never know. That Air India 171, a guy walked away from that, so there could be survivors from this crash as well. And then in the days and weeks and months to come, and many times it's hard to get information out of Russia, but we'll see. We'll do what we can here on this channel to try to get you the accurate information on what exactly happened to this airplane. But what we know at this point is that it was on final 10 miles out for its approach to Tynda, and the aircraft disappeared off the radar screens. And you can see now basically the smoke rising from the woods here, and the first responders have arrived on the scene, and they have confirmed that it was the Antonov An-24 aircraft and not some just random fire out there. It was actually the aircraft, and they're under recovery operations right now at this point. We'll give you details on how many exact passengers were on it, but the first reports out of Reuters was it was 40 plus a crew. We don't know how big the crew was on this aircraft. And if there's any other details to share about the rest of the fleet from this particular airline, I'm sure they're going to do some sort of inspection of airplanes once they get some details on exactly what happened. But at this point, there's just not enough details to let us know exactly what happened. So as we get those, we'll pass those along to you. But the news right now out of Russia and Siberia is not good today. It doesn't look good for this aircraft, and very sad news. But again, hopeful that there'll be a survivor or two or many more out of this crash. We'll give you details as they come. Now you know. I'm Captain Steeve. Fly safe.